know we are.
Okay. Hey, everyone. Happy Sunday. Happy Sunday, and welcome to the Freedom Exchange. Look at Christy. It's already almost black outside.
Yes, there's some little blue and pink out there.
How does it get dark so dang fast? And we decided summer dark is different than winter dark.
Yes, winter dark is dark. It's like black dark.
Scary dark.
We need
Don't
some
go
more
outside.
lighting in here.
Okay, well, can we address the lighting?
Yeah, no, let's not address that.
Okay, so we're excited to have Mr. Artie Gonzales from, do I say LA? Is that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Los Angeles. Yeah.
From Los Angeles with us. So he's on
My hometown.
on our side of the country. Usually we don't have anybody on our side of the country. So this is fun.
West
You're just
Coast.
a little south
West
of
Coast
us right
represents.
now. Yep. We are going to start.
I was waiting for that.
I'll practice later.
That's the West. You got it.
So Christy is going to start us off with something we found on Artie's Facebook that just really represents the conversation of what we're going to have today, but who he is, where he's coming from. It just felt like such a good starting point. So do you want to read that?
Okay, so this is from Artie. This is from you, Artie. I'm talking like you're not here, but you're here. Okay, so this is what you had posted about a speech that Robert Downey Jr. gave. And you said, hug the cactus. I'm a big fan of Robert Downey Jr. and hope to have him as a guest on Lessons from a Lifer one day. The majority of us tend to cope with our deeper issues by running from them. We do this with substance abuse, unhealthy relationships, excessive travel, and other harmful behaviors. What he and Artie and many others with carceral experiences understand is that the true path to personal freedom is found in courageously embracing our unhealed parts. This is a process of being honest about what has happened in our lives, how this makes us feel, how this affects our worldview, and intentionally having compassion for our broken selves. Can you imagine if everybody did that? Holy crap. I have lived a life deeply rooted in trauma, so much so that I then became the source of others' trauma. I am only here today because I chose to hug the cactus and forgive. Today, my greatest joy is paying it forward in some small way to others. Today, I offer healing. I am eternally grateful for the process, wishing you all continued healing and growth. Amen.
I know. Amen.
We're done. Thank you very much.
And that's a wrap.
And that's a wrap.
And that's it.
That's pretty much when we spoke with you, and when I've seen you on Twitter and the different things that you talk about, that's the crux of everything that you say and who you are. And so it's hard for a lot of people to realize, like, someone that was in prison for a long time has this kind of heart.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So thank you.
And it also represents what we're trying to do on the Freedom Exchange. We've used the word with you also, the same word we use is bridging the gap of the them and us mentality, that someone that has been incarcerated doesn't think or feel or live the same way that we do, or that our traumas are a different version of trauma than theirs, or
it's the same.
It's all the same. And if these conversations we have on the Freedom Exchange can bring that awareness and show the humanity of each one of us. I mean, all three of us sitting here have had hard things, have made choices that hurt people, we've all found ways to kind of redeem that in our lives and love on people. But that's everybody, if everybody chooses.
Share our wisdom.
Yeah.
To the people that want to heal, the people that want to feel better. And I love it.
Is there anything about, just for our viewers that are new to the Freedom Exchange, that we haven't kind of who we are, what we do here?
I'll just say real quick that the Freedom Exchange was built out of pretty much what this conversation tonight is about, which is bridging the gap, bridging communities for people that have never been in prison and for people that have. So we know we all belong in both places, and that we just want to squash stigma, and we want to promote conversations. There was a quote that I heard. It was an experienced activist, which I love that, which just means based on our experience, I'm going to be an activist for healing. And so that's pretty much what we do here. So thanks
I'm
for
gonna
that.
take off the glasses.
Okay.
I made my notes big.
The big reveal.
No, I just made my notes bigger so that
You have notes? I'm just kidding.
I do have notes.
Okay.
We had a really beautiful conversation, and I wish that I want to be able to fit it all in.
Yes,
We're gonna,
I
but
hear
what did you say earlier? This is just the first one.
Doesn't
Yeah.
have to be the first.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
it
mean,
doesn't have to be the
last.
doesn't have to be the last. Yeah. So we're going to let you talk now, Artie. I wanted to open up with this concept of my vision is like a ladder, and how there are people that are doing this good work and that are trying to raise themselves to a higher level and a higher standard for themselves in the way that they love and they serve and they improve their world and the worlds of those around them. And Christy and I know that we look for people that are higher up on the ladder, that have taken a few more steps than we have, and we want to rise up to where they are. And at the same time, we also want to look down and who's also trying to do what we're doing and come along, but maybe we have a little more time, a little more experience, a little more wisdom in doing this work and the self-healing. And
Because we've all been on all the stages of the ladder.
yes, so it's about this concept
the
of
ground.
reaching up for ourselves and also reaching down and helping others. And that seems very much on the same page of where you're at. So that's one reason we were excited to have you on the show, because you seem to have that same mentality.
You're our people.
And I wanted you to share a little bit about that concept in your own words, because you have other words than I have.
You have a lot
No
of
problem. Sure.
you have a lot of words right now, but that's okay.
I think that what I would say, and it's very simple actually, what I would say is that there is a process in which someone can come to be an asset to their community or to society at large. Many people go to school, they graduate, some of them go to college, they end up having these incredible careers and contributing in that way. It doesn't mean that they haven't gone through traumatic experiences or rough childhoods or anything. It's just everyone has a different experience. And when I am specifically speaking about the formerly incarcerated population or the incarcerated population or the carceral state, what I'm talking about are the experiences that people have that are very traumatic and basically coming from the mud, being abused or seeing and experiencing things that just were so adverse to like a growing person that sort of took them onto a different path. The reason I'm talking about that is because I am such a person. And I had a childhood that was filled with abuse. I was physically abused, mentally, emotionally, all the forms of abuse you can think of. I witnessed drug use, sexual things that I don't want to get explicit here, but I definitely went through a very traumatic process as a child. And I didn't have a father. My father was absent from my life since the age of 2. Thankfully, later in life, we came together, had forgiveness, and all of that was the product of healing and growth I was going through myself. However, in the initial stage of my childhood, I did go through these and experience these things. And what they did was they put me on a path to where, as I said, I became the person who then caused other people's trauma. I went out to the streets and I gave people what I was getting. And so think of a person like that. How do you bridge the gap from that kind of person who's gone through these things and is now shaped by them to someone in society who is completely contributing, loved by his community or her community, just a complete asset? Like, how do you bridge that gap? And you talked about like the things that we do outside of ourselves. But what I found was there was nothing more important than the inner work.
Yeah.
It was the inner journey that I took inside of myself that made me an asset to my community later. I had to become an asset within before I could be an asset without.
So how does one do that? So someone's listening and someone's like, I have a brother that is in that same situation and I don't know how to talk to him, or I'm that person and I don't know how to get there. I know we don't have that much time, but I'm just curious, what's your first reaction to that?
So we talked about, you mentioned right at the start of this, you mentioned hug the cactus.
Yes.
Which in some people's terminology, what I'm basically saying is face your demons.
Yeah.
You need to boldly and courageously face the demons that haunt you. That's what I did, and that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So I'm talking about a process wherein you go into yourself, you explore your past, you delve into your past, and you really start exploring, like, what happened to me? What did I tell myself about that?
Mm.
What did it mean? How has that shaped my perspective and my system of beliefs? How has that, as a result of that, affected my outcomes, my behaviors, my consequences? It was an entire process. And so I had to actually go back into childhood and realize what most people do is these things happen to them and it gets buried under this sediment of, I'm just going to forget. I have very convenient amnesia. I got bills to pay. I got kids to raise. And they don't understand how that affects the way they're behaving with people around them, how they were shaped by it. So they never change. And then they wonder why I've been divorced 5 times, or I can't stay at a job longer than 6 months, or I'm always traveling from one place to the next or moving. It's like I'm always running from something, but I don't know why.
Mhm.
These are the kinds of things that happen to people later in life who do not go through the process. And as someone who had a life sentence, it was sort of mandatory for me to go through that process in order to free myself.
Yep.
So I took myself into that process, and I really challenged every single belief that I ever developed as a result of my traumatic experiences.
That's huge.
And what came out of that was so much compassion and forgiveness for myself and for those who had done harm to me. But it also was a wake-up call, because I realized, oh my God, like the way that this happened to me, that's what I've been doing to others. I have to be able to operate in a different way. So I need to change the way that I view myself and the way that I view others around me. That's where the healing started for me. But it all had to happen at the beginning by really hugging that cactus.
Do you think that people can get to that realization and that decision of like, I'm going to hug the cactus in me. I'm going to do that. Does it take a massive trauma, train wreck, whatever? Do you think that, I will just say personally, and you might agree, we both needed one of those to do that. And Christy,
because
I had
whatever it is had to cut through my facade, my pride,
story,
my survival. I had it cut through hard because I was, we're good at surviving through stuff, even if it's not horribly traumatic stuff. And so I had to be hit over the head.
So do you think you have to go through a train wreck to realize you need to do that work?
I don't think so. I know that based on my experience from people who were around me, we all had to hit this level of rock bottom, what we call rock bottom. We all had to sort of hit that to have the awareness of something has to change here. Where do I start? And then you reach out to someone and then they start to tell you about the process. But I don't know that has to happen for everyone. And also, let's be clear, not everyone has the same extreme circumstances I had or consequences that I had. I am an extreme case, and that is why I always tell people who are non-formally incarcerated, I realize my example is extreme, but if we pare it down and we just take it down, you can see how this has happened in your own life. There are people who never go to prison, who never get in trouble with the law, but who function. It's very hard for them to just be happy and to accept themselves and to do great things in the world because, let's say, they didn't have a father. And because they didn't have a father, they didn't feel seen or appreciated in their childhood. So later in life, they hid themselves. They didn't shine at work. They didn't necessarily shine as students. They weren't trying to be out on Front Street, just speaking with who they are and voicing their goals and telling the world what they wanted to do, because they already felt unseen. So they acted unseen. And I don't know if you need a rock bottom moment to cause you to take a look at that, but you definitely need someone like me to just point it out. And if that's something you've been struggling with, that's what I'm talking about right here. There's a process in which you could go in, realize this happened to you as a child, and have someone that's working with you that can say, you have value and you are seen. Your goals are important.
Yes, and almost everybody I know doesn't really know exactly who they are. I mean, it's taken me a while, but I'm making that a priority.
Mhm.
But a lot of people don't know who they are because they're, had kids
Surviving,
and surviving. And it doesn't even
distracting.
have to be horribly, but all of a sudden they're like, dang, I don't know what I like. I don't know who I am. And then you feel stupid because you don't know who you are. And it's this whole cycle. So, but it is so free when you start to be free to be yourself and to say stuff that maybe is not, that everyone else doesn't agree with, or you can act silly, and it's a freedom. It's beautiful.
And you say this all the time, and I like how you pointed out that it starts with inside of us, because whatever is going to flow out of us onto other people, it starts from inside of us. And so when we can have that grace for ourselves and think, this is my story, this is where I came from, these were the variables in my life that shaped me, like you mentioned, and give ourselves grace where, like, I can see how I got to this point. I can see how I told myself this story and how I felt these things. But now it's my turn to show up for myself and choose a different story, the truth, the belief of who I am, and the parts of me that are actually redeeming and wonderful and can add to this world, can add to.
Yeah. And they don't all have to be traumatic. It could just be
Right.
a parent who is more shy, or, it's all different things and so I took a criminology class wondering, I want to learn why I did what I did. And I came up with, I don't know anything. I mean, it really was a perfect storm of, I said my sister, who was in my same situation, if she lived my exact life, wouldn't have gone to prison. That just my personality coupled with everything else. So that's what I think we want. Part of what we do this for, and is to so people can see themselves a little bit in each person if they're honest.
It gets very tricky, and I'll give you an example. So this is how tricky it can get, but this is the actual causal link between a belief and a behavior.
Okay.
And it starts like this. All right. So I was raised with my brother. My brother's a year younger than me. My brother went through the same traumatic childhood that I went through, the same abuse, the same traumatic childhood. And as you guys have heard me speak about before, I had my grandmother in my life.
Yeah.
And my grandmother was primarily the person who raised me, but she nurtured all of my dreams. She was the one person that I just loved with my entire being. I did everything to honor and make my grandmother proud. She's the one who, I mean, because of her, I'm taking algebra at the age of 12. Because of her, I'm acting in musicals at 11, right? And really, like, she knew I wanted to work in Hollywood as long as I've been alive, and she did everything she could to nurture that dream. My grandmother was the person who told me that everything was possible. She passed along so many lessons to me, and I would go through these occurrences of abuse, and it was always to my grandmother that I would run to. The same could be said for my brother, although my brother did have me as well, right? But we did experience the same experiences, and my brother has never been incarcerated.
Yeah.
Right? My grandmother died when I was 13 years old. She died of cancer suddenly. It was like my world ended. It was over for me. I felt like I had nothing left. My goals were gone. My empathy was gone. That loving, nurtured childhood that I had kind of with her was gone. All that was left was resentment and fear and anger and doubt, so much anxiety, so much fear. Like, I was just terrified after that. What am I going to do with the rest of my life? I just wanted to self-destruct. I just wanted it all to be over. So I went to school. The day that my grandmother died, I went to school and I got into a fight. That day.
And you were how old?
I was 13. A week or two later, I got jumped into a gang. 3 years later, I ended up taking the life of a 19-year-old man. Wow. And I was a strung out, drug addicted gang member at that point and had completely self-destructed. My brother.
I was going to say, from somebody who was in plays and took algebra at age 12.
Yes. And was in college prep classes and had all of these special, they tested me because they were like, this kid's off the charts, so.
Did anybody come alongside you and as you were declining and try to talk to you, try to wake you up to this?
I will get to that for sure. But the point that I was making was that my brother, he ended up somehow, he still graduated from high school later in life. He got a job. He started a family. My brother's never been to prison. He didn't join a gang. He didn't go in any of those directions. Why did he choose to go in that direction and I choose to go in another?
Yes.
And what I realized later in life, as I was delving into myself, hugging the cactus and doing the work, I realized that it was simply a belief. It was the perspective that we both held in relation to our grandmother's death. To me, my grandmother's death was an end all. And so I just wanted the world to burn down, and I was resentful, and it affected my behavior. My brother, on the other hand, he was certainly, he felt the pain of my grandmother's death, our grandmother's death, but he still had me. He still had his older brother who he looked up to, who he played with, who he always looked to me for guidance and advice and all of these things. Wow. It wasn't an end for him. He still had someone to look to. And that difference in perspective was enough to send us in a completely different trajectory for the rest of our lives. That's what I'm talking about. And the only way you get to those levels of insight is if you actually go in and ask yourself, where did it start from?
Yeah.
Which I'm sure that gives you a lot of grace and compassion for yourself.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we come to find that it's always the childhood. It really always comes down to the childhood.
And your belief was your person was gone. So yeah. Wow.
And I certainly, to answer your question, did have a couple of people who did try to talk me out of my stupor, out of my pain, out of my anger, out of my resentment. They try to snap me out of it. I wasn't going to hear it from anyone other than my grandmother. That's how much pain I was in.
So there's nothing anybody could have said or done.
No,
that you hear that a lot.
I am sure there is, but it wasn't my experience.
Yes.
I am sure that exists for many people, but in my experience, it wasn't. And I ended up just getting worse and worse and worse. And eventually, after 16, after I committed my crime, tried as an adult, sentenced to 19 to life, sent to Pelican Bay State Prison at 18 years old, my very first prison, the most notorious prison in California. 4 months later, shot, stabbed, involved in a riot, solitary confinement for the first time at 18 years old. I turned 19 in the hole in solitary. I go back out to the general population. I continue to just get worse and worse and worse. By the time I'm 23, 24, I'm running a gang.
Wow.
And this is how it just continued to decline for me until eventually I found myself in solitary confinement for an 8-year span. And after that is where the change came.
Who gets this? Okay. So do you think it's because of you being smart that you ended up running a gang? Can they detect the fact that you were a smart kid?
Yes, is the short answer. And the problem with that is that for a young man or a young person who's out there looking for some form of validation, seeking esteem, seeking peer recognition and acceptance, for someone to actually come along and say, you know what, we recognize your intelligence, we value it. And so because we value it, we're not going to send you off into the ether with a knife in your hand every 5 months. You know, we have people for that. What we want is to groom you, and we want to nurture that intelligence, but to fashion it for our ends. And that's what they did. And I honestly tell people all the time, when you join a gang and you go into prison and you get involved in all of that, and you get steeped in their belief systems and educated to their causes, it's really a process of brainwashing. Yeah. And so when I decided to come out of that, I had to unbrainwash myself and then rebuild myself to get back to the kid who wanted to be on stage.
While in solitary confinement.
I made the decision that while I was in solitary confinement, I was like, I'm not meant to be living like this. I
Can
told
you
you guys
explain
about
that
my,
a little bit?
yeah.
I think this is a good moment for as much as you want to share, but kind of describe what solitary confinement, maybe what it's supposed to be, why you're put there versus the reality of what actually happens to a human in that environment.
And why the public would be okay with that, with someone
The
going
public that
out.
doesn't know that thinks, of course they go there. They're doing bad things in prison. Of course they go there, but that's not the reality of what you experience. I would love you to share on that.
And when people say about the length of time that they're in, it always bothers me when we kind of brush by it. 8 years. It's like, hold up.
Stop,
Let's
8
sit
years.
with 8 years for about an hour instead of 32 seconds and say 8 years. Just think
I tell people, go in your bathroom, close the door,
for 8 years.
sit there for an hour, and then imagine being in there for 8 years. Good luck. And it's so interesting to me how we live in this punitive society that I deserved it because I was a gang member. So I deserve to be tortured. And this is the sentiment and the belief system that we are trying to counter, that we are trying to change. And I realize that this is not something that can happen by sledgehammering people, but it's about connecting to their hearts and bridging to their hearts and minds to a point where they can say, okay, I see that someone's hurt, so they're acting in a hurt fashion. They don't deserve to be tortured. That's what the goal is. But to answer your question, solitary confinement has been defined as torture by many organizations around the world.
It is.
It really is. So the place I'm talking about is in Crescent City, California, in Pelican Bay State Prison. And although it is above ground, it feels like you're below ground. It is a building that you walk into with very long hallways. There's no direct sunlight in there. There's no human contact with another human being. It's just like you're living in tunnels. And in those tunnels are little pods that have 8 cells in them. And all 8 cells have a single person in them. So you're surrounded by 7 people that you actually don't see because you're all on the same side of the wall. And it's just a place that is designed for the purposes of sensory deprivation. It's designed intentionally to not give you direct sunlight, because with the way the lighting is in there, with the neon lights and all that, it's meant to attack your mental faculties. Yeah. And in their view, it's meant to actually break down an individual who's, let's say, a high-ranking gang member, and force them to come to the table and say, I'm done, guys. I tap out. I don't want any more. What do I have to tell you? What do I have to do? It's a very torturous, punitive way of attacking criminal organizations and gang activity. And it's completely barbaric. And
I have one question there.
Yeah.
Can I say that now? So would you be where you are today from a different circumstance?
What do you mean?
Like if you didn't go to solitary, would you have gotten to where you are today? I'm sure that's a question that people would have.
It's hard for me to answer that. One can never know.
Yes.
What I can say with certainty is that the science in my case was absolutely correct. The science around brain formation and development for young minds into maturity, into adults, was certainly the case for me. By the time I was 25, 26, in my mid-20s, is when I really started to mature out of the brainwashing.
Like the aging.
I started to age out, and I really started to ask questions about the cracks in the facade that I was seeing in my lifestyle. And I was not receiving satisfactory answers. The problem with being highly intelligent is that eventually you're going to be like, 1 + 1 does not equal 2. You guys are fucking lying to me. I'm out of here.
Yeah.
So
and I don't think you need a barbaric torture.
I don't think I need it, right,
to age out like that.
Yeah. I feel like the change was coming anyway, and ultimately it does. Here's the thing. I'll tell you guys right now. Everyone thinks that organized crime and gang members are like forever. It's blood in, blood out. You're in until death. There's no 70-year-olds in solitary confinement. Eventually everyone taps out.
Yeah.
And they do that because they age out, and eventually it just doesn't make sense to them anymore. And that's what happened to me. And I didn't need solitary for that.
Yes.
And would you say that you are a rare a rare example of what
anomaly.
8 years in solitary confinement will do to somebody's mental state?
Not rare. I know people who were in solitary confinement for twice, 3 times as long as I was there. My co-defendant was there about 2 times the amount that I was. He's home today. He's functioning. He's perfectly great. He's great.
2 times?
He was back there for about 15 years. And I have to say that I witnessed people go crazy in there. I hate to use the term go crazy. These are victims who were tortured into their mental decline. So let me change that. I witnessed people be victimized and tortured in this way until they lost control over their mental faculties. And I talked to you guys outside of this about what some of that looked like. And it's pretty explicit, the things that happen when your mind starts to go. But I did witness this. And the many who I know who are like myself, we fought for our sanity. That's all we did. We created programs. We did the same thing every day. And we just sort of got ourselves through it.
We just kind of describe that program that you shared with us.
Yeah, sure. So mine was very simple. I basically would wake up at 5 a.m. every day. I would start stretching out. They would bring my breakfast tray at 6 a.m. I would start working out at 5:30. They would come bring my breakfast tray at 6 a.m. I would stop. I would put it away, store it. And then I would continue to work out. I would bathe inside of my cell. And then I would have my breakfast and start to read or study. Books got me through, writing got me through, definitely exercise. I went through periods where I would do 2-a-days for a year. I learned how to fashion my mattress into a huge dumbbell with books in it. Wow. So I would work out with that. I really became like a calisthenic monster and was doing lots of, you guys have heard of burpees. Yeah. I've done thousands of burpees in my lifetime. And it just all helped to keep me sane. And it's just sort of like fighting for that until you have a chance to get out. But of course, you internalize a lot of that torture and a lot of that PTSD. And that's what hit me when I came home years later.
Do you want to share that, what that looked like when you first got out? And
Sure. So I was released from solitary confinement in 2012. I walked away from the gang in 2010. From that point, I started to delve in and do the work, right away.
First, I have a question. So when you say you got out of the gang, how did you do that?
Well, I just basically informed them, hey, I'm no longer one of you and I'm going my own way. And that's as nice as I can put that here. And I will just say it was not well received, of course. But I walked away from that lifestyle in 2010. I started to throw myself into recovery, into 12-step work, which was my initial entrance into doing that work. What people don't know about that speech that Robert Downey Jr. gave about Mel Gibson, if you are someone who's been in recovery and is someone who's done the 12 steps, that's what they're talking about. Yeah. So I knew that's what he was talking about, why it was so powerful for me, because they are great examples of the power of recovery. And that's basically what I did. And that was my entrance into like delving in and doing that inner work. When I came out of solitary confinement, I ended up around other people who were likewise changing their lives, trying to have these transformations. And together we started to nurture one another. I was able to touch people and hug guys and cry with guys and really just like start to actually do that work together in process groups. And that's how it all began for me. And in 2015, when I came home, I felt at peace. I felt so balanced mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, this balance. Mm. And I get home, day I get home, November of 2015, society just hit me like a ton of bricks and froze me in fear. And it was just inundated with sound and people. And I realized how shell-shocked I was. And that was the moment I realized I have PTSD based on my experiences. And I just didn't understand that until then.
Well, because it's so much, the smells, the lighting, you know, the sounds, the accessibility.
It was sensory deprivation and then it's
overload.
sensory overload.
Yeah, for sure.
So much changed in 20 years. I mean, it's just, you know, it was just overwhelmingly, like just, it just blew my mind, you know, so.
My turn.
Okay, go ahead.
This has just been.
I like the looks. It's like I give the look.
We know each other
like,
really well.
that side eye that only friends can give each other. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay. It's been kind of a thread through this whole thing, and it's always in my mind from my own experience, and then walking through Christy's experience of coming out of prison and reacclimating into this world. The concept of shame. And I listened to a podcast today that Mike Tyson was on, and that he was asked about, you know, his boxing career in that time. And he just kept over and over saying, I don't even really talk about that much. It was a different time in my life. I'm a different person. The people around me are so different. It's not even who I am. I don't watch boxing. I don't talk about boxing. I don't go in the boxing gym. I don't do anything around that world. He's completely in just a whole new place in his life. And they were like, why? That was so much of who you were. And you were so good at it. And you were such a big player in it. And he's like, because I was mean and I was angry and I was negative and he was mean. So he was nasty. And he doesn't want to go. That's what he holds on to from that, even though came from a major place of trauma and he said, nobody goes into boxing that had a really great childhood. You go into boxing when you have nothing else and nothing to lose is his perspective.
And that's never talked about really, huh?
Right. And so he doesn't want to go back there. And then I think there must be it sounds like some shame. I'm not going to put words in his mouth, but it feels like there might be some shame wrapped around that brings up all of those places who he doesn't want to be anymore, but who he was and the people he hurt. So your demeanor, and when we talk to you, we love you, Artie. We've been talking to you since the other day. We haven't stopped talking about you. And you come across very accepting and filled with grace for yourself and loving other people. And it all just feels like it's an overflow coming outside of how you feel about yourself. So somewhere in there, you decided to hug the cactus enough that you could love, and that comes out of you. Love all of you, even the things that you did. And we haven't talked about the word shot caller, but since I started this work on the Freedom Exchange, I've learned a lot of I've met a couple and I've learned a lot of terminology of what that means and what a big deal that was and how that has to live in your body somewhat, that you made a lot of hard decisions that hurt a lot of people. And you're still doing what you're doing to this day because you love yourself enough to let that stuff go. I've said enough, right? Lots of words today.
Yeah, that's okay.
Do you want to talk about the shame piece and how you reconciled that and let that go?
Sure. This actually comes right from the lifers. Here, this is wisdom right from the yard. Something that many of us know in prison who are there right now, and many of us who have come home. All emotions, including the emotion of feeling ashamed, are all normal, healthy emotions. We give a negative connotation to shame because we've been conditioned to do so. But shame in and of itself at a certain point is very healthy. If I do something...
Hold on.
Let him finish.
Shame is healthy?
Let him finish.
Wait, I want to hear that question.
Well,
shame is healthy. Anger is healthy. Resentment is healthy. All these things that we are conditioned to be told are just negative, that we're actually being lied to. Shame is healthy. So if I do something that harms Christy and I feel some shame around that, it's actually healthy for me to feel that because I've done something that has harmed Christy and I feel bad about it. That shame is positive because it will motivate me to make amends and do something to make amends to Christy for it. It will motivate me to change my behavior. It'll motivate me to think about what I've done and to just not to justify it or to rationalize it, but to actually call a spade and say, I'm going to hold myself accountable here and I'm not going to do this to someone else. So shame in and of itself can be a positive thing. What we teach each other in there is that all of these emotions, including shame, they all have a defective point though, where they can go negative. Everything has an extreme. So if I am feeling shame to the extent that that shame is paralyzing me or making me feel so bad about myself that I give up. I'm just going to continue to behave the way I behave. And then I'm going to lie to people and be like, no regrets, bro, you know, and all that stuff. Like that, all that is the negative, defective, extreme version of shame. So you have to have discernment when you talk about emotions and when you talk about these feelings. And this is something that we all learn and we all know in there. And that's what you're seeing. I don't run from shame. I don't say, you know, oh, it's so bad. No, I embrace it. That's part of hugging the cactus, is actually embracing all of these things. Those traumatic experiences that I had, yes, they hurt me. They caused me great harm and they affected my life in a very negative way. But there was also lessons in those. And if I look at them in a certain light, there is certain ways in which that mud and that dirt that I was buried under, I was able to grow out of, right? And blossom from. So it's all about perspective and how I look at these things. And so that's kind of how I feel about shame, which is why I am motivated in part by shame, because I committed a crime in which I took a young man's life when I was 16 years old. And there came a point in my transformation where I realized I can never restore his life, but I can live my life in such a way that this never happens again from me. And perhaps I can be the cause or the reason this never happens to someone else. This is the only way I can think of to make things right. But that shame that I feel around what I did, it's motivating for me. It's a higher power for me. It's not my captor. It's not something that holds me or shackles me. It's freeing for me because I fall into acceptance of my shame and I actually surrender to it, and it makes me the highest version of myself.
You feel
So
better
that's-
with that answer?
Yes.
Are you better now?
Yeah. I just needed some clarification.
That was good.
of
That was beautiful.
But I
Beautiful.
think,
Thank
let me
you.
just make a statement. I think that's why when you speak, your heart radiates with other people that are on that same path, because humans, we all have that soul that, you know, has truth way underneath all the experiences and shames and emotions, so that truth to truth gets, it's like salve to the soul. And that's what connects us. So if we can all stop the divisiveness and cancel culture, which I wanted to ask you about if we have time, then we can just experience each other's honest truth about emotions and love and compassion. And I mean, it would just be amazing if we can have a life like that. And who would think that somebody who was in prison for so long could have that much wisdom? People don't realize it, but we know it. We love it.
Yes. And I'm not unique, and I would never take credit for any of the wisdoms that I'm going to share with society. I am here because 99% of my rehabilitation came from other people who were incarcerated like me. These are concepts that were passed down to me, and people worked with me, and I had mentors and great friends who took me through this process. I had spiritual advisors in prison. You know,
Those people were incarcerated, not the officers.
who to this day are higher up on those rungs of that ladder than I am, and I would still go to today. And yes, they're wearing blue still to this day. I would still go to them for that spiritual guidance. And so I would never take credit for it, but I would say that in the spirit of them and being voiceless, I'm the one who gets to bring it to the forefront and here to society. And if people can see that this is how fundamentally I've changed, then perhaps they're closer to realizing there's a lot of people in there that are just like me.
Yeah.
We don't have to be a punitive based society.
Do you want to continue this part of this with that cancel culture concept that was not a part of your world prior to going to prison, but you came out and had a little rude awakening? Can you share kind of what your perspective on that is?
Yeah, I'm just not a fan of the cancel culture at all. I feel like cancel culture to me feels like this inverted, like I feel like I was canceled by society. And before we called it cancel culture, we just canceled everyone. We called teenagers super predators, and we gave them life in prison starting in the 90s. The president of the United States was one of those people who advocated for life for juveniles, right?
Imagine.
Our current president.
Our current president. And this
President, right
is, I'm not saying he obviously doesn't have the capacity to change over time. That's the point.
Yeah.
I think that he does.
Yeah.
What I'm saying though is that I was canceled long before they ever had a terminology for it. So cancel culture being a thing out here, it triggers me. I know that what you're doing to someone, just based on the fact that you don't agree with their perspective, you don't agree with their opinion, it doesn't align with your religious or your political views. So you're just going to cancel them and cut them off. To me, is the laziest thing that a mind can do in trying to reshape our world, in trying to touch the world in a positive, growthful, however you want to say that way. You don't cancel. That's a mind that's just giving up and refuses to even seek to understand. I think that true bridges are the ones who seek to understand another's experience, to actually exercise empathy. And I may not have lived in the heart of Texas. I may not have lived where you lived and were raised the way you were raised. I may not share your views, but I will never cancel you. I will always seek to understand why you believe what you believe. And in that, I'm hoping to find commonality that will somehow bridge us to one another, because the change happens in the middle. It doesn't happen in the extremes. I feel like we live in a society of extremes.
Yeah. My heart's going to explode right now.
I will never cancel you. Cancel you.
Ever.
True. I love it.
That was
so simple.
So strong.
It's
awesome.
a very simple statement. I will never cancel you. And I don't think anyone would disagree with those words, but it's happening all around us.
It is.
Yeah.
And I place that on both sides of the spectrum. It's not just, it's not just the conservatives who want to lock everybody up. And, it's not. There are many progressives who cherry pick their advocacy, and ultimately what they do, that's what they're doing, is they're canceling the other side. You're not helping by doing that.
No.
You are definitely self-righteous, and you're definitely standing in your position, but you are stating that your position is the only position, and the only people who speak in absolutes are extremists.
Yes.
I can't abide by that.
Why don't we have 2 more hours to do this?
I know. There's
Artie, this was so good. This is probably one of our deepest, richest conversations, and not our last one.
Well, and I think the reason that I get so frustrated is because, yes, what you're saying is correct. That's where our heart is. That's what I've learned since coming out of prison, from being someone who maybe was that would cancel someone without realizing it because of judgment, because I wasn't connected to myself, So now that I'm in this arena and can own my parts, that it's like, I want to give that to other people. And the more we share these conversations, the more people are, curious and interested in doing that. But I wish we could get there in a faster, more explosive way. Maybe if we were on like CNN or Fox News.
Van Jones.
They would never allow us on there. But yes.
Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah. So
I'm trying.
Mark Wahlberg.
I'm trying.
Yes. And I don't doubt it. I'm sure you're going to make it. And I just, my heart is so full to think about a young boy at 13 who lost his grandmother and who went on this rampage of pain and fear, and what can we do to help them? And so, thank you so much for sharing all of that.
But we're not done.
We're not done.
We're not done.
Right.
I'm the timekeeper, and I'm watching some things. We have a live studio audience today, and I'm just going to warn them that this is their moment to think about the thing that we requested of them.
Yeah, one question. But before that, so you have a second.
Are there any questions on our live Facebook?
Just statements.
Okay. Just statements and comments. Okay.
All right. So we're going to do a speed round. Okay. So what this is, I'm just going to ask you a question, and you just say kind of the quickest thing that comes to your mind. And this is just for fun, to kind of lighten it up a little bit too. Okay.
All right, cool. So
lasagna. You know what? My first question was, what's your favorite prison food? Was that lasagna?
Well, it was their version of it. Yes, actually.
Their version
of lasagna was my favorite.
And what was the main ingredients in lasagna in prison?
It was the ground soy beef, basically soy. Yeah, I know, but it had the tomato sauce and cheese and the noodles. It was
noodles.
it was palatable, even though it was what it was. Yeah, but that was my favorite. That's funny.
That is funny. And you knew this. See? Smart. Okay. Let's see. If you were famous, what would you be famous for? More famous than you already are.
I think that I would be famous for it. Actually, it's my dream and my goal, not to be famous, but to be the first formerly incarcerated person to really jump up high into the stratosphere of high-level producing major feature films, television shows. Obviously, I take out of that, the Trejos and the Robert Downey Jr., who also did time, and the Mark Wahlbergs.
Yeah.
I'm saying aside from them, in our community, the people that you and I know and that I don't know anyone who's gone there yet. And it's genuinely my goal. I know that if I'd succeeded, it would make me famous, but that wouldn't be the reason why I'm doing it. Everything is about the voice for the voiceless.
Yes, for sure. Which you have said that you brought in formerly incarcerated people into your job, right?
I have, yeah. I'm on the board of directors of Manifest Works.
Manifest Work. Can you
Can we
tell us what that
from
is?
the speed round, because we forgot to ask about what he's doing right now. And
I know. Well, we get so excited, and I want to hear about Manifest Works.
Yeah, let's take a moment for that.
So really quickly, I'm on the board of directors of Manifest Works. So you can go to manifestworks.org and check us out. We have a video and all the good stuff. And basically, it is a workforce development program that takes anyone who is system impacted in any way, homelessness, incarceration, foster care, and has had that history, and trains them for positions as production assistants in the film industry. It helps people to get their foot in the door who are interested in the film industry. And then from there, we've had so many people just go into the unions and work their way up. I myself am a union person. I'm a Hollywood Teamster. I'm a local 399 location manager, location scout for major TV shows and movies. But I was a production assistant for 3 years before, and yeah. And it's a great program. So many of us have gotten into the industry. I go back every single time we do this and mentor and shape, and I get as many of us as I can into the industry. It's all about, like you said, reaching down that ladder and pulling someone up after you've gotten yourself up.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But it's because they're also reaching up.
Yeah.
I've found that
also reaching up.
You can't bear the weight of somebody that's not willing to also reach up. We've all probably experienced that.
Like, my disclaimer for every single person that I personally mentor is always the same. I will take it as serious as you do. If you're serious and you reach up, I'm going to grab that hand. And if you don't, that's a personal choice, but I'm always going to be here when you're ready to reach up.
Love it. Love it. And then just one more time, your big dream right now is?
My big dream is to creatively produce movies and TV shows.
Any subject, any like genre, or just be in that?
I have a writing partner. He's been writing for 20 years, and we are a part of a development company called Spirit Medicine Productions. We develop traditional scripts in features and television shows. He and I have written a Bible and a pilot for a prison drama, which would be a TV show. Think Oz meets Game of Thrones. Very realistic, very gritty. Mm-hmm. I, of course, am the lead consultant as producer.
Of course, probably a few of your friends.
Yeah, and then we also, of course, the whole model of Spirit Medicine Productions is formerly incarcerated people working on it, writers who want to write, like putting them in touch with creatives. It's all about that effort. And all of the projects we work on all have a tinge of social justice component in them. So we also wrote a movie called Tres Papas, which is a rated R comedy. And it's sort of like The Hangover meets The Fugitive, but the Latino version.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so, and all three of those characters are formerly incarcerated people. And it's just like this hilarious thing they go on over the weekend to prove the innocence of their friend. And they just get into all these hangover. I
love finding the humor. I love finding the lightness and the levity and the heart and the pain.
Which is so important.
Yeah. So, I mean, we definitely do have projects, and those are the things that we are currently, we have meetings all the time, and we have a manager, and it's just growing, so I say these are my goals, but I'm actually on the path to
I was going to say you're already doing.
We're so proud of you. I
Yeah.
love, this is so, it's exciting and it's encouraging and drives us.
It's inspiring to keep doing that. And then we'll put notes in the show notes of all the things that you're doing. So if people want to reach out to you or help fund or anything like that would be great. So
yeah, please do.
Do you want to keep your speed round before the girls have a question?
Okay, we have one question.
Oh, but
Should we
are you
do
guys
that
gonna?
first? Okay, that's it.
Okay,
They're shy.
they're shy, but you already got to meet
No,
them.
don't be shy.
Come on, Zoe. Zoe's gonna come on.
There we go. Let's get out there. We got
Artie's asking. Okay,
Artie,
now tell
Artie
Chase
did
to come.
8 years in solitary. You can come
Come on, Chase. It's time to get on the
Did you
stage.
hear him? He said, "Come on, Chase."
Okay.
Time to represent, show out.
Sit on that.
Here.
What you got for me?
And she has a question.
Come on, wait, we got one more coming in. This is my kiddo. They're freshmen in college and they're both in a criminology class right now. So they're curious and they're here joining us today.
Congratulations.
So what resources did you have like once you were released?
Once I was released, that's a great question. I paroled to a program that's in Los Angeles called Amity. It's the Amity Foundation. They have a lot of transitional living spaces and sober living homes around Los Angeles. And I went there to acclimate to society. So it gave me the time I needed. And while I was there, like they took me to the DMV, helped me get my ID. I went through like different classes and like groups while I was there to sort of process out what I was going through and experiencing. They had someone who would like take us to the store and teach us how to shop.
That's so awesome.
Yeah, so I did have those resources, and they also like provided through the County of Los Angeles funding for like my first work boots and things of that nature. Friends like that helped to get me like my first tablet, my first laptop.
Wow.
And really taught me how to like use a cell phone. I had never touched a cell phone my entire life.
Do you have a computer or anything that you used in prison?
No, I everything that I've learned has been since I've come home. And it's funny because now at work, I'm the guy that everyone's like, can you help me out? Like, I don't know how to do any of this. And like,
you guys imagine you have grown up with something in your hands and computers your whole life. And then now you're in your 40s and it's the first time you've touched something.
Ever.
When I left, oh my God, dude, when I left, we had pagers. Okay.
You
And
know
then
what
when
a
it
pager
came
is?
out, we had iPhones, and I was like, what? This is crazy. Yeah, but I that's a really great question. We did have some resources, but to emphasize your question, I don't think we have enough. I think we need more resources.
And you were there for how long until you were able to transition into another place?
I gave myself a whole year, which allowed me to like get my first job, which was stocking shelves at Walmart, which I proudly quit eventually. And I gave myself the whole year to save. And then eventually I got my first apartment after that year. I got my first car and I got my first apartment. Oh, I had to learn how to drive.
Yeah, because you went in at 18?
At 16.
You went in at 16.
Yeah, so when I came home, I actually went through the driving school and had to do it like twice. And it was like 6 classes each time. And the lady was like, there's no way you don't know how to drive. You're the oldest person I've ever had in my car. And I'm like,
Well,
I said,
let me tell you why.
Yeah.
I didn't want to tell her why. I was like, oh, I'm from New York. We don't use cars.
You don't drive
drive
to
in
New
New
York.
We used to have a driver.
No, we got the subway.
Isn't that amazing? Just the driver's license and the computers and grocery shopping. You're 16. You probably didn't do a lot of grocery shopping before that.
I had no appreciation for the value of money when I came home. It was just like, if I had it, I was spending it. It was all bad. And I failed my first driving test. I didn't get it the first time. I ran a red light. Yeah.
Oh, is that what you did?
Oh, did you? Oh.
See, we're all the same. It's hard.
We're bridging the gap right now.
That's so good. Well, thank you, girls. Thanks for making them come on, Artie. That was good of you.
Yeah, and I salute your courage to do so. Exactly. Never, never, never hide behind that camera. Get in front of it.
Yes, for sure. Oh yeah,
That was so
Yeah.
good. Thank you so much. Do you have any little fun speed rounds you want to
Yeah.
finish up
Yeah,
with?
we want to finish. Oh, we're good. We're good on time. Okay. Are you a morning or night person?
I'm a morning person.
Me too. Describe yourself in 3 words
Did
from
you say
word.
you too?
Oh, I used to be.
I will come up against that answer.
I used to be. But,
Sorry. No.
okay.
I'm like, hey, Chris, you want to walk at 7 a.m.? And she's like, oh, 10? We'll walk at 10. 7 a.m.
Okay, fine. I used to be.
That wasn't the question. Where you go?
Describe yourself in 3 words.
I would say ambitious, loving, and very stubborn.
We don't know the stubborn part. We agree with the first
But let me
2.
write that down.
Total Capricorn. Capricorn City over here.
Takes one to know one. I'll have to, yeah.
Is that you? Are you a
Stu-
Capricorn?
No,
Oh.
I'm almost a Capricorn. I'm
You're
a Pisces, but I'm stubborn.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how cool are you?
Oh, I'm 11.
Woo!
Like that.
We love
You gotta have some swag.
Yeah, totally. If you were running for office, what would your campaign slogan be?
Exactly what I quoted on your page, which is what the world needs right now more than anything are human bridges.
And a bunch of effing kings.
Yeah.
I didn't say the bad word. You will say the bad word,
Yeah.
but I didn't say the bad word.
Yeah, we love
No
that.
pawns, a bunch of kings.
Yes.
No puns, we're all
If
kings.
anyone wants to know that story, we'll tell you later. Okay. Are you lemon or chocolate?
Chocolate.
What's your hidden talent that nobody else knows?
I play chess very well
Ooh.
and poker.
Ooh, that would be a fun game to
Now
set up
you're
sometime.
out. Now you can't. You're out now. People know.
What advice would you give your 12-year-old self?
I don't know if it would be advice more than if I could go back and talk to my 12-year-old self, I would say, be grateful for the time that you have with the people that you love in your life. And just know that even after they're gone, their love abides in you, and you with yourself is enough.
You with yourself is enough. Yes.
Okay, time for these puppies. Sorry, we got a last minute Facebook thing.
I want to know if you can go anywhere on vacation, anywhere, where would that be? Money's no object.
Italy.
Italy. Ooh. Okay. Let's see. Do you
You got one from the ghost. Do you
Oh.
want to see what it is? I
The
don't know.
ghost.
Well,
Let's
we're
see.
supposed to refer to him as the ghost. We know exactly who he is.
No, I don't have. I don't.
Oh, he told.
Yeah, that's.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay. He's commenting. He's not questioning. Okay. Okay. So before we say goodbye for the night, is there anything that you want to say? Last words, last thoughts about our conversation today, or what you want our viewers to hear or know?
Well, this was a fantastic conversation. I really enjoyed this. I hope the Freedom Exchange continues to go and do more. I'll help you guys find some guests too. I'll talk to some friends and bring you some people.
Love it.
Anybody who wants to reach out to me, just DM me on Instagram. That's where I spend most of my social media time. Is where you can find me. My Instagram is the Artie Gonzales. You can find me there. I'm open. I'm always down to jump in if you need someone that you want me to talk to, or you need. I also do speaking and all that good stuff for certain events, but I'm just letting you know right now, I'm not free, and I don't give away or visit
You
that.
should not be.
Yeah. So just
No.
putting it out there right now. And I do that not because I'm greedy for money, but because we all have that value and we deserve more.
You're worth
I
it.
need to be the example and the tip of that spear. So nothing personal.
Yeah.
And also I just want to say last words, just be guided by love, whether it's your purpose or your decision-making or whatever it is. How do you honor yourself with love? There's love will never send you to prison in the way of it will never lead you astray if you're just
Never
guided
fail
by
you.
it.
Yeah.
So
It's beautiful.
yeah, embrace it.
Yeah.
Thank
Well,
you,
we love
Artie.
you. We think you're awesome.
We're very proud of you.
We are so happy to know you and have had this conversation. And this is definitely the beginning of
a
more
beautiful friendship.
Oh,
And I can't wait to come back on for sure.
we'll share the love with
Yes.
you.
Thanks, Artie, so
Okay,
much. Have a
we'll
great
talk to you
evening.
soon.
All right. Bye,
Okay,
ladies.
bye, Artie.
Bye.
Oh, girls say bye.
Bye.